Hello everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Uh, Thank you very much for your participation in this course on social research method. I would like to share my PowerPoint. Here you are, the PowerPoint. So today is week 3, okay? And the topic is related to paradigms of social sciences. We will try to understand about positivism, post-positivism, constructivism, and pragmatisms. Okay, so this is not breakfast anymore. Oh, but of course, you will watch this video tomorrow in the morning. So this is some breakfast questions that I have for you. You can also answer these questions in the forum uh, on my class, and this forum. The answer to the forum is the integral part of this lecture and its assessment. So number one, my question: how do you understand about knowledge? And last week I think you already discussed about knowledge with Yunus. So Yunus is from Pakistan, right? And the second, how do we distinguish between knowledge and science? This is two different terms, and we need to distinguish between knowledge and science. And how do you understand social science? How do you understand social science? And then this is a tricky question, also addressed by my supervisor during my PhD from American University. Is social science a science? Okay, is social science a science? Because many people consider social science as not science, and then people tend to connect the terms of science into natural sciences. And then, what are the approaches that we have in social science? And how do you understand the paradigms or approaches? I'm so sorry. Daddy is delivering the lecture. Okay, you can just play with sister. How do you understand the paradigms of science? Okay, in social science particularly, and what are the components of the paradigms? We'll talk about ontology, epistemology, methodology, and then axiology. And this is the paradigms of social science. We have like positivism, post-positivism or realism, constructivism, and pragmatism as the paradigms of social science. And this is the discussion that yesterday you discussed already with Yunus on how you distinguish between knowledge and science. We can distinguish them based on scope, methodology, and generalization. For example, science is developed based on a systematic research through the observation, collecting and analyzing the data, drawing the conclusion that can be generalized to understand a phenomenon. That's the science. While knowledge, it's like information or culture based on personal experience, tradition that may different between one place with the others. For example, Musa in Gambia, you may have your own knowledge, local knowledge. That local knowledge may be different that we have here in Java, Indonesia. And this is the social science. So, social science, what do we mean by social science? Social science is a wide range of academic discipline that study human society and relationship. So, for example, once you are entering into the governmental studies, it is a part of social science. What we learn in the governmental studies, for example, is on how the government make the policy to deal with the social issue, on how society or people that are involved in political parties are competing each other to gain into the power through the election. So this is a part of human relationship, and this is a social science. We can also learn, for example, about the future, the history of human, the history of our life, the history of our government, the history of our independence from the Dutch colonialization. This is a part of social science. And we can also try to understand about the culture, specific cultures that people have in a specific place. It's also a part of social science. For example, in social science, we have like anthropology, sociology, psychology, economics, political science. I think some of you like Clarinda or who? Alia, you are coming from natural science. Well, Monica, I do not know in your case whether you are coming from social science during your senior high school, and also Musa, are you coming also from social science? And Dama, so you are at home already, and Indra, I think you are still in Yogyakarta. You may come also from social science during your senior high school. And then is a social science? Yes, of course. We can directly answer that social science is science. Why? Because the social science was developed based on empirical research. Okay. For example, I can claim myself as a social scientist, and during my PhD, my master's degree, I work in the data collection, data analysis. I did the interview, observation, many things that I do to observe a social phenomenon. For example, during my master, I work on the land use change from rice field into industrial zones in northern part of the Java. In the northern part of Java, and I did interview NGOs, environmental NGOs, labor organizations, and then the representative of local government. I did the interview on how different interests among different actors was involved in the decision-making processes, whether to change the rice field into industrial zones or not. And during my PhD, I was working on the issue of palm oil plantation, the expansion of palm oil plantation into peatland areas, for example. And I also did many interviews with informant, and I developed my knowledge based on empirical evidence, interview, collecting the data, and other things. And the aim is, for example, for the master's degree, the aim is to discuss our finding with the others. While in the PhD, not only to discuss our finding with the others, but we can also claim what kind of novelty we have from our research that are completely different with the others. So then we can say that is social science science? Yes, of course. So social science is a science, and the social scientist is a scientist. Okay. And we also need to understand about social science paradigm. So paradigm is like a worldview on how somebody understand the phenomenon. So different paradigms adapted or believed by a social scientist can can influence. I mean, for example, if I do understand the paradigms A, while the other scientists they adapt or believe in paradigm B, we may have different understanding on the phenomenon. And the paradigms can be distinguished through the ontology, epistemology, axiology, and methodology. I will not talk more about this deeper because we will talk about this further and deeper during the week 6. Okay, during the week 6. And this is the ontology I will just skip because, as I mentioned before, in the week 6, I will talk. Ontology is a part of a philosophy, is a branch of philosophy that is related to the reality, okay, into the fact, into the phenomenon, okay, and and there are many branches as well in the ontology disciplines. different people, they can have different understanding about the ontology. But ontology is very much related to the reality, the phenomenon. And the second is epistemology. I will also not go deeper into this. Epistemology uh, is a process on how we can understand the reality. So we have a distance with the reality, with the phenomenon, and to understand better about the reality, we need to approach the reality itself. For example, by asking, by observing, by anything that we can do to try to understand the reality. Beyond the reality, everything's the context and uh, some things behind the reality. That is epistemology. And the third is axiology. What should we do after we understand something? Okay, are you going to advocate? For example, if you try to understand about the poverty in your country, are you going to try to advocate them, or you can just leave them? It's the reality. This is, or what kind of ethical and norms activities that we can adopt and believe after we conducting a particular observation to the reality. And the last is methodology, and is a ways on how, or ways, not a ways, okay, but ways on how you collect the data, you collect the information, either through the interview, focus group discussion, survey, or even collecting the data, as well as, for example, the observation. So this is the method. While methodology is completely from the methods, in methodology we also include the theoretical framework to understand the reality. While in the method we just collect the data through some ways of approaches in the data collection. Now we are moving into the key research paradigms in social science that I mentioned before. The first, for example, if you can see here several pictures, you may have different opinion about the picture. There are two persons who see the picture from different side. The first person said the number was 9, while the second person said that it is 6. Which one is the correct answer? And which one is the wrong answer? And we can say that there is no wrong answer in this. Both persons are true, they answer correctly, but they are standing in different position, so they can understand the numbers differently. And in terms of the reality, we can also do like this. We can it can also happen or be happening, like you may understand the reality from one side while the others understand it from different sides, but and then they have different understanding, but it's fine. And the third is, for example, this is, you can say, what picture actually is this? Maybe you can try. So what I can see here is a girl inside the forest. Okay, you may understand differently. Maybe this is not a girl in the forest. And what I can see here is a mother with a baby. Okay, I do not know what you can see here. And what I can see here is the head of a cute rabbit, bunny, little bunny. Okay, when I was in Finland, I saw a lot of bunnies just next to my house, and it's wild bunnies, many wild bunnies in the forest around our neighborhood. And this is the first paradigms that we have here. This is positivism. Okay, so in the positivism, they believe that the reality is single. Okay, once you are approaching the reality, you should be objective. You need to take a distance with the reality. If you get too closer to the reality will influence you. And then the information that you collect from the reality will be biased, will be subjective, will not be objective. Okay. Usually, in the positivism, they use the method of quantitative, such as using survey, statistical analysis, questionnaire, as well as experiment. Okay, So to understand the reality, for example, if you would like to understand why the Gen Z, I mean young generation here in Indonesia, they tended to vote during the 2024 election into the candidate, into the Gemoy. Do you know Gemoy? The Gemoy candidate. And the question, why they prefer to vote for the Gemoy candidate? And then if you are coming from the positivism background, then you will do the survey. You will ask based on the questionnaire to many of young generation. Let's say, for example, 1,000. But of course, you can also calculate based on the pattern how many informant or not informant, how many respondent you need to represent the whole population. And then you will find the answer from them. Why did they prefer to put the candidate of Gemoy instead of the others, instead of Anies Baswedan or instead of the Ganjar Pranowo, for example? So this is on how the positivism try to understand the reality through the survey, where they try to understand the reality by taking a distance to maintenance the objectivity in understanding the reality. So this is positivism. And the second is post-positivism. In the post-positivism, they believe that understanding the reality just by taking the distance, okay, is not enough. Okay, it's not enough. It isn't enough. We should mix the method of understanding the reality with the others. Triangulate. Triangulate means try to find different method to understand the reality. For example, we can understand why the young generation they prefer to vote the Gemoy candidate during the 2024 election. The questionnaire is not enough, but we need also to do the interview with them because the behind because the survey or the questionnaire, we will understand the reality just based on numbers, the quantitative, the quantified through the numbers. We do not understand exactly behind the skin, beyond the numbers. And then we also need to do the interview. In the post-positivism, so realism is not single. Okay, realism may be more than one. I mean, the phenomenon or the realities may be more than one, and we need to understand the exact reality by making or conducting different ways of collecting the data, like I mean, mixed method between quantitative and the qualitative. And the third, we have constructivism. Constructivism understands that the reality is constructed by the society. For example, if we can say, we can have like one figure is bad, one country is really bad, this country is really bad, while this country is a hero. Okay? Becoming hero is big and becoming bad is not the reality. It's not real. It is constructed by society. For example, if we put if we take a picture of somebody who threw the trash, okay, on the road, and you make the caption, this is irresponsible person who threw the trash on the road, for example. Maybe people, and you post on X, on Facebook, or on Instagram, and people will get angry to this guy because he or she is throwing the trash on the road. But in the reality told differently. For example, this guy is doesn't really throw the trash or the rubbish in on the street. He threw it, but accidentally, and then he immediately took back the trash and put it into the trash bin. That's the reality. But you construct this guy in a bad way, in differently or wrongly or badly, and then people will understand that this guy is really bad. So the reality in the constructivism is actually is not a real fact, but it is constructed, constructed by 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 it is constructed by people mind or by people captions through the social media. Currently, I'm doing research and it's also submitted to Scopus Journal. I'm working on the issue of environmental impact and environmental justice of palm oil in Indonesia. So palm oil is the largest agriculture industry in Indonesia, where 15 million per people working on this sector and 16 million palm oil exists in Indonesia. But many people construct or NGOs, for example, they think that palm oil is really bad. It's harming the environment. It's like deforestation, biodiversity loss, GHG emission, forest fires, and so on. Okay. And they construct this negative image of palm oil on social media. The question is the palm oil that really bad? We need to find the answer, or it is just a construction, okay? Through somebody else, through somebody mind, through somebody thinking, through somebody movement and thought, okay? So this is constructivism. And the last, we are learning about pragmatisms. In the pragmatisms, that knowledge can never be truly representative of the reality. And instead of trying to understand whether the reality is single or the reality is not single or the reality is constructed, in the pragmatism it is more likely try to understand the reality and how we can solve the problems in the reality. For example, if you are searching or researching the issue of poverty, you need also to think about how will you solve the problem of the poverty. Uh, Pragmatism focuses less on finding the truth, okay, but rather what is useful to believe as determined by competence and query. And this is focusing on the nature of the reality and the truth toward what works and using all valuable approaches to understand or to solve the problem. So I think that's all. You can also see this table, the last table that I made. That's all for me. And please do not forget to answer the question. What do you understand about knowledge and science? How do you distinguish between both of them? How do you understand social science? And how do you and is social science science? And how do you understand positivism, post-positivism, constructivism, and also pragmatism? That's all for me. Thank you very much, and I hope you can understand my lecture. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.